I have a controversial opinion, and that is systems are a waste of time. Creating systems are a waste of time for most people. You shouldn't bother. But I read the eMyth. I was recommended eMyth. It's a great book. Everybody says I should read the eMyth and implement the strategies. I read it too, a long time ago. Great book. I learned a lot, changed my mindset. A lot of great stuff there. But it probably doesn't apply to most people watching this video just yet. I think for most people, it's a complete and total waste of time to implement systems. What they really need is they need to do better at management. What they really need to do is they need to have more honest conversations with their team. They need to get better at training. I know these were the things that I had to do. I'm guessing they might be the things that you need to do versus documenting your systems and recording videos. And the reason for that is if your business is smaller, as you grow it, everything's just going to keep breaking. If you build a system, not long from now, that system will be pointless, worthless, because the business has changed and it's evolved. What I believe happens is we're running our businesses, we're trying to figure it out, we're trying to grow. We've all been in this position. I sure have. I got to believe you have too, where we don't really know what to do. It's like, how do I get this thing to $1 million? How do I get this thing to 300,000? How do I get to 5 million? And we're just throwing stuff at the wall. We're reading books, we're going to conferences, we're watching YouTube videos, we're trying different marketing techniques, we're trying all this stuff, but we don't know exactly what's going to move the needle, what's going to get us to where we want to go. But we've heard about the eMyth and we've heard about systems, and we're like, that makes a ton of sense, because it does make a ton of sense. And why does it make a ton of sense? Because we have had all kinds of problems with our people. They've driven us crazy. We've hired people that we've been so optimistic about and they've let us down. And we're like, man, and they're not consistent. There's so many things. And we're like, the systems would solve that. This winter or this off season, I'm going to build systems. I'm going to record videos. I'm going to document everything. Feels good. It feels like we're doing the right thing, but it's not the magic bullet. It's not the thing that's going to get you from 300 to 1 million or 1 million to 5. It's just not. So why should you even bother? Well, there's a lot of reasons to bother. I am a fan of building systems, but at the right time. So let's just run through a couple examples. You're small. You're under $1 million. Everything is just going to keep changing inside your business. So I want you to imagine back to when you started. Most likely you started out with a truck. That truck just got you going, but eventually you updated that truck. Probably at some point you upgraded the truck again, and you've kind of figured out these are the trucks to use in our business. You originally hired an employee. You found that maybe the employee worked out, maybe they didn't. You might have discovered, not very good criteria but that I used to hire that person, or I think I know how to find better people now, or I know what I don't want now. Like something, I guarantee when it comes to people, you've had some really bad experiences. You've learned a lot. You think about how you hire, how you train, how you work with people. You think about it differently now. You've learned a lot since that very first person. Software, you implemented a system. Maybe it's time for a new system. There's so many things where you do it one way, and then you learn, it's like, well, that didn't work, or I should have just went ahead and got a better software system than buying this cheap little thing because it's not solving my problem, and then you do it different. The doing it one way and then doing it different is where all the documentation, all the videos, all the work you spent was a complete waste of time. And as a business grows, past $1 million, the same thing happens. You add more complexity, you add more management, you change out the tools you use. Everything changes. Now, this does not mean as the business gets big, you should not have systems. Absolutely, you should have systems. I'm telling you the reasons why you shouldn't. Generally under $1 million, shouldn't have them. And then here's the other reason why I don't care what size you are, you should not bother building systems if you're not going to do what I'm about to say. You're not going to manage to the system. So we think, I remember back in the day, you've got a problem with team members not showing up on time. Got a problem with team members smoking in the truck. Got a problem with not locking the gate. I mean, you can just rattle off the problems. And so it's like, I need a system. I need to document this. I need to create a training video on this or a video, and this is how we do it. That's step one. I mean, that's like a tiny step actually in the process. Now, once you've got it, whatever the system is, whether it's documented on paper, whether it's a video, you've actually got to get your team to look at it and pay attention to it. And then when there's a challenge, you have to refer back to it. You've got to actually use it, meaning you've got to manage to that thing daily. And then when something changes in the business, you need to update it and you need to retrain the team and then you need to manage to it. Maybe you need to create incentives around it. And then when people don't comply with it, you need to put them on a PIP, performance improvement plan. And when they don't follow through, you need to fire them. And all along the way, you need to have a whole bunch of really hard conversations with people that you may not want to have hard conversations with. And so I believe a lot of owners think that a system, a documented order of steps in which a thing should be done will solve the problem. No, because we're still dealing with humans and you've got to do the training, the hard conversations, the management, and the firing. So the system is 20% of the puzzle. And again, that I'm not negative on systems. I think systems are imperative to build a really big business. It's just that creation of the system does not mean forward progress. It might, in fact, mean you are wasting a ton of time. You should have spent all your time on the only two things that matter: getting new clients, getting more team members. At least the only two things that matter in the early days. And so that's why I tend to be negative on systems. So what should you do if you're not going to manage to the system? And so even though you're a $3 million company, there's no point building them. Or you're a smaller company and it's just too soon because you're just going to keep breaking everything and breaking everything in a good way. Your company's growing. You're changing the way you do things. You're learning. You're evolving. Everything you document is like, why did we do it that way? That was the slow way. Here's the better way. Well, then you just have to recreate it. So just wait a little while and then start building your systems. So what do you do instead? I love checklists. I mean, there's no reason you can't have checklists from the beginning. This is the way we load the truck. This is the process for performing the work at this kind of a property. This is the safety checklist. You can just have some simple checklists that people can quickly refer to. They can be in the truck, on the clipboard. They can be in the office on the way out the door. They can be in the shop. They can be by the equipment that they load every morning and they unload every night. You can just use a series of checklists that are really easy. Keep them in a Google document. If you need to change it, you just change the thing and you reprint them and you hang them back up. And then you train to them. You've got to train to them. Then you've got to inspect work. So much in the early days can just be simple inspection while you're on the property with the team member and just say, hey, I noticed this thing when I was doing the work. I found that the fastest way to get this done was to do it this way. Have you tried it? That you just have a conversation like they're a human being. And just like, hey, this is something I've learned. This is something I've tried. Have you tried it this way? It's sometimes not that hard, but we don't have the conversations. And if somebody that's on your team makes it impossible to work with because they won't take coaching and they're not open-minded, shouldn't be on the team. System won't fix that. Only option, off the team. And that's why systems generally don't work, is because, and I hate this one, systems and memos and company meetings they happen for a message to one human being. And we have a problem with one person and we make a plan, we make a new rule in the company. We have a new system for the 20 employees or the 100 employees because of the one. It's like, why? The problem is with the one. Let's pull them aside, have a conversation with them, and if we can't fix it, fire them. But we now just beat down our entire team with a new training about a thing that doesn't apply to them, a new system, a new whatever that they all have to listen to, and they all know it's like, it's Bob. Why are you telling me this? It's Bob. Like nobody else in the company is doing that. But we do that to avoid hard conversations and firing people. That's one of my biggest gripes with most people that are implementing systems, that they're doing it for the wrong reason. And I'm telling you, I've done this for decades now, multiple decades. I can picture in my brain as I'm talking all the problems that I've had. And like the problem wasn't a system. The problem was, Jonathan, get some confidence and fire that loser, or get better at recruiting people so that you can fire that person and you know that you could hire somebody tomorrow. So many of my issues that I would have imagined were a system I needed to build were nothing more than a conversation. And so is that happening in your world? So what do? Checklists, inspect the work, coach to the problem. If there's an issue, take a picture of the issue, go to the team, talk to the team about the issue. It's a training opportunity. Have the really hard conversations and have them almost immediately when the problem happens. Don't let it... I've lived in worlds of performance reviews, and the idea that we had a problem a month ago, and then I'm going to have a performance review with the person, and a lot of companies don't even do performance reviews, but in 3 weeks, when we have our performance review, or at the end of the quarter, or next time you ask for a raise, we'll bring up the problem we had. That is terrible management. If there's a problem, we immediately go to the person and we talk about it right then. I have been so guilty of this one as well. We have an issue, and I'm busy, I put it off, and the first time we talk about it is when they're asking for a raise. And I'm like, well, it doesn't mean they don't get a raise, but then I bring up this stuff. It's like, why did I bring that up 2 months after it happened? It's virtually irrelevant at this point. It just isn't even fair. So back to my what to do. When there's an issue, immediately have the hard conversation. And when you've had the conversations and you've trained and you've done everything else, then you fire and you get the next person. And what you'll find is when you have a really good team of people that are interested in doing things the right way and the most efficient way, you don't need a whole lot of systems. But when you have a really crappy team of people, you feel like you need a lot of systems, and the real problem is the team. That's what I've learned.